New Thought Media Network. We are a global broadcast network of positive music, media, and entertainment, inspiring humanity's evolution along the journey of enlightenment and creating a world of love, peace, empowerment, and prosperity for all. New Thought Media Network. Positively inspiring.
New Thought Media Network proudly presents a weekly exploration of various spiritual practices with renowned spiritual authors, coaches, teachers, and Dr. Tracy Brown, RScP.
And now, here's Tracy.
Hey everybody, it is Tracy Brown and you are here for poetry, prayer, and practice. And yes, I am hiding behind that sign. Hiding behind it because it is so important to me that you put poetry, prayer, and practice on your calendar for every Tuesday at noon Mountain time. So any reminders I can give you to do that, I'm going to keep reminding you because I am actually feeling really good about this dive into spiritual practices from the perspective of poetry, from the perspective of prayer, and from the perspective of what are the things that we do all the time, maybe even habitually, that we don't think of as spiritual practices, but they really are. And so each week, I get the opportunity to dive into that for myself and to invite you to dive into it as well. Today is in many parts of the world recognized as Valentine's Day, and people go crazy doing ridiculous things. Let me not say that. People get inspired to definitely show the ones they love, their romantic partners especially, how important they are. And I'm not saying that facetiously. I really am not. I think that in all relationships, there is the opportunity to do that every day. And there is nothing wrong with carving out a special day to make special plans. And so it is appropriate to think about how do you talk about love from a spiritual perspective. On Valentine's Day, that would be something to do. And I was thinking about that over the last 4 or 5 days, and there were so many places to go. I really started to spend the entire time talking about considering God or spirit or the creator and your love relationship with spirit. And how do you demonstrate your understanding of love, spirit's love for you and your love for spirit? And I thought a lot about just doing 45 minutes straight of spiritual practice on love, meditation and affirmations and chants and music. And I thought about how in all relationships there is an element of love, and that on Valentine's Day we don't have to talk only about romantic love, sexual love, relationship, primary relationship, or significant other love, that we could also talk about our love for our friends and our love for our family, and of course, our love for ourselves. So if you saw the title, you'll see that I landed on self love. And partially that is because I don't believe that you can fully love another if you haven't practiced on yourself. Now, I'm not one of the people who says you can't love anyone else if you don't love yourself, because I don't think that's true. But in enabling yourself to understand how to fully love someone else and accept them unconditionally and be there for them and with them, you get to practice on yourself. And when you can do that for yourself, you are more likely to be able to do that with and for another person. So I'm actually going to combine all of those things I thought about as we go through this time together today. But mostly I'm going to end up on self love. So some of you are familiar with Fenwick Holmes. Many of you are familiar with Ernest Holmes, and you may know he had a brother. One of his brothers was Fenwick Holmes. And when I was considering what might be appropriate for today, I just happened to pick up a Fenwick Holmes book for a different reason. And this is the book Calm Yourself by Fenwick Holmes. And I was looking for something else, but then I was scanning the table of contents, the magic key to serenity, psychoanalysis, psychosomatics, the subconscious and suggestion, natural unfoldment. And there were a lot of interesting chapter titles. And then there was a chapter title, Love and Marriage, chapter 18. It's like, oh, Valentine's Day is coming up. I wonder what Fenwick Holmes had to say about love and marriage. I could tell you about it, but maybe you will have the same reaction I did. So I am just going to read the first 4 paragraphs of this chapter, maybe 5. Love and marriage, how to get even with each other. Yeah, really sorry. That is the subtitle for the chapter. All right, I'm going to start over. I'm not going to stop this time. Chapter 18, Love and Marriage, how to get even with each other. Marriage is a self-balancing equation. It is like a seesaw. First, one partner is up and then the other. But there is a moment when they are on the level and get even with each other. It is the inequalities that make early married life interesting. It is the balancing that makes it serene and comfortable as time goes on. Only love and determination can adjust 2 personalities to each other, and the fight to fit must be waged with each other and not against. A great deal depends on the honesty of each of the partners. Each must ask, is it really our way I want or my way? A man, for example, marries a woman for one thing and then expects another. He took her for better or worse because she was a swell looker and danced like thistledown. But after he carries her across the threshold, he expects her to be able to settle down at the sink and is surprised she needs a cookbook. One of the first mistakes of married life is the effort of each of the partners to make the other over in a hurry. I remember Mama and me, he called his wife Mama. I remember Mama and me early in our marriage being quite satisfied with myself. I told her I didn't want to be made over. Being clever, she admitted it was a mistake to try. Being honest, we talked it over. We admitted that because we were being married in mature life and had lived in entirely different social surroundings, we had developed certain fixations of habit and mental outlook. Our personalities were established on individual paths, which now merged into one, and we would inevitably jostle one another as we walked side by side. We must make more than the ordinary effort not to step on each other's toes. If the going got slippery, each was to hold the other up, and not to force likes or dislikes on the other. A reasonable latitude would be given to each for bringing into the house the things he liked best, from friends to flowers. Even ragweed would be permitted so long as it didn't produce hay fever, but neither of us was to chew it. It was surprising in how many ways we could agree on our differences without becoming antipathetic. She loved opera, but I disliked it because when the drama got tense, one of the players was sure to spoil it by beginning to yodel. It was due to her tolerance that I developed a great love for it in the following years. Fenwick Holmes. Now, maybe you, like me, when you heard the very beginning, the title and the subtitle of this chapter, when I read it, I was like, how to get even with each other. Oh, this is going to be interesting, right? And then very quickly in the first paragraph, he uses that imagery of the seesaw and how the goal is to get even, be on an even keel and equal level with one another. The other thing that I really love about the way he begins this chapter on love and marriage is that while he writes it in the context of his own marriage, a marriage between a man and a woman, he actually lays out some basics that apply regardless of gender identity. And so in reading his points about the need to compromise, the need to allow each person to be the individual they came into the relationship as, and then to work together to learn from each other and to support each other's development and happiness. And so I think on Valentine's Day, it's especially appropriate to start there. But the reflection I had, and I read the entire chapter, which was very interesting and very enlightening. The reflection that I had was he wrote this from the perspective of, in fact, he says it in that first part. We admitted that because we were being married in mature life and had lived in entirely different social surroundings, we had developed certain fixations of habit and mental outlook. Our personalities were established on individual paths, which now merged into one. And I remember reflecting and going, you've got two individuals who are strong, who have habits, who have ways of being that have been defined socially, in other words, socialized or culturally, and now they come together. But the maturity required to do what he talks about means that each one of them does have some maturity. They have love for themselves. They've learned how to love themselves, and they're bringing that into the relationship. They practice first on themselves. And you have to have a certain amount of self-love and self-efficacy to understand that you cannot go into a relationship trying to control or change the other person. And so, of course, that right comes right back, comes right back, comes right back to why overall today I'm really thinking about and wanting to share about self-love. Now, some of you know that I love quotations, and so I also pulled a book off of my shelf that is titled Many Strong and Beautiful Voices. Many Strong and Beautiful Voices. And this is a book of quotations from Africans throughout the diaspora that were collected by Quinn Eli. And there is a section in the book that is quotations about intimacy. And for me, when I think about love between two people, whether it is friends or lovers, whether it is a married couple or two people who are simply getting to know each other, there is a goal, whether it has been stated or not, to develop intimacy. What level of intimacy is present? And so when I think about love on Valentine's Day, I do think about what intimacy has been built, created, and nurtured in the relationship. So I have a few people I know who are excited about Valentine's Day, thinking about what they are going to receive from the person or the people they've been dating. And it is all about either what I'm going to receive. Did they show up? Did they buy me flowers? Did they buy me jewelry? Did they buy me lingerie? Or, what I'm going to give. Am I going to give an experience like dinner out? Or am I going to give this person a new tie? Am I going to give this person a watch? I mean, what do I give? The give and receive focus. And to a certain degree, I think that those gifts often reflect either the intimacy that has been developed, or sometimes it's the focus on the gifts and the outward focus where there has been no intimacy, or there's very little intimacy. And in this frame of reference, I'm not saying intimacy as a synonym for sexual activity, but true intimacy of the heart, right? The vulnerability, the relationship, the commitment that reflects intimacy. And so I'm just going to share a few quotes from this chapter on, or this section on intimacy. The introduction to this section, Quinn Eli writes, "What words can do justice to the feeling of being in love? What grammatical construction can accurately reflect the experience of two bodies swept up in ardor and emotion? Despite this struggle with language, we witness in these pages a torrent of passion and emotion made tangible by the power of words." So, This is a proverb from Madagascar. Let your love be like the misty rains, coming softly, but flooding the river. Would you love that? Coming softly, misty rain, but flooding the river. Barry Gordy wrote, everybody's the same when it comes to love. When someone in the ghetto falls in love, she hears bells, the same bells someone uptown hears when she falls in love. And while this makes me smile or laugh a little bit, I love the reminder that the emotion of love and the commitment to love is the same, regardless of your station in life, regardless of whether you have a lot of money or you have no money, that the purity of love is pure, right, is real. And when it's real love, it does drive us to be in relationship with someone in a particular way. A proverb from the Congo: love is like a baby, it needs to be treated gently. I love that because it is so easy sometimes to take the love that we share with someone for granted. Or even worse, how often do we know people who have been in relationships or found ourselves in relationships where we begin to take the person we love or the person we know loves us, we take them for granted. And we forget that we need to continually care about, care for, and demonstrate that care. So, this proverb, love is like a baby, it needs to be treated gently, is an important one to remember. There is a quote here from, is it Ruby D or Ossie Davis? It's Ruby D. And she talks about marriage and her marriage to Ossie Davis. And they were married for decades and decades. I want to say 50 plus years. And this is a Ruby D quote. Marriage is a process we've discovered. The wedding is the event. It takes a long time to really be married. One marries many times at many levels within a marriage. If you have more marriages than you have divorces within the marriage, you're lucky and you stick it out. And while she is talking specifically about a formal wedding and marriage, I think that's true too with friendships. Think about someone who maybe you've known since grade school or high school. Or think about the relationship you have with a sister or brother or cousin you're close to. You have a commitment to one another, and it's not just an obligation, but there have been times when you recommit over and over. There are times when you're growing together, and there are times when you move apart from one another. But if you have more marriages than you have divorces within that marriage or relationship, you're lucky and you stick it out. So these are quotes that I think remind me, at least, that it is more important to really commit to building, nurturing, and expanding intimacy. And intimacy is hard to expand or build if you don't trust yourself, if you don't love yourself, if you don't know yourself. So let's spend a bit of time on self love. I always go back to, what do I believe is a representation or a way to describe the greatest love of all, that love of spirit. And I like that Ernest Holmes uses that, love is the self-givingness of spirit. That spirit is giving of itself into form for its own expression, and also giving into form that ability for that which it creates to express. And how cool is that, right? That there is this boundless love that is constantly creating life, constantly creating and expanding and evolving life. And how can I apply that kind of love in my life? Most of us grow up thinking love is something someone else gives to you. Someone else must love you, or you must do things so that someone else will love you. You need to make this person happy. You need to do what this person says so they will love you. Relatively few of us actually grow up learning and experiencing the kind of unconditional love that is, I love you no matter what. And so, for many of us, we have to learn to love ourselves unconditionally, to love who we are and who we are becoming. And when we are learning to do that, it gives us the capacity to then see the wholeness and the fullness of other people and gift them with unconditional love, or with the love that allows them the space and the ability to fully be themselves. And that on Valentine's Day, that's really what I want us to think about. Whether we are involved in relationships where we are gifting others with our time or with presence, the core of it goes back to I am willing to, and in fact, I am skilled at loving myself. So let's do a little spiritual practice around self-love. I wasn't really planning to do this, but I think this is what's whispering to me to do. So I'm gonna light a candle. No, light a candle. It is ooh, green tea. And as this candle burns, I just invite you to take a couple of deep breaths. This is what we know about self-love is it is a practice. And even though I have done a lot of work with self-love, I'm still always practicing because my life is always evolving, right? Always expanding, meeting new people, doing different things. So it's not a matter of self love is a destination you get to, it is a practice. So let's do a guided self love practice. And I invite you to simply breathe, take a couple of deep breaths. And I'm going to guide us through a meditation and a practice of affirmations that remind us to love ourselves. Keep breathing, and you may experience some emotions coming up. Acknowledge them, but don't judge them. I feel happy, or I feel afraid, or I feel, just label it, capture it. And then many of us in meditation treat those things that come up as clouds, right? And just let that cloud, name it, and let it float on by. Notice the emotion or the feeling and let it pass as you return to your breath. So you've taken a few breaths. I am encouraging you to feel how it feels. Your arms relaxed in your lap. With each breath, following that breath to different parts of your body, allowing any place that's tense, tight, sore, to just relax. Check one more time on the next in-breath for tension. Your ankles, your neck or shoulders. Just breathe into those places where there is tension. Notice how your shoulders and your back and even your jaw release the tension and breathe. Continue to breathe. And if your mind wanders, just gently bring your attention back to your breath. I'm going to repeat a series of affirmations. And I invite you to repeat them after me with warmth and with gentleness towards yourself. Rather than worry about what others think, I choose to live my life for me. In every way, I am already enough. In every way, I am already enough. I choose to cultivate positive thoughts about myself. I choose to cultivate positive thoughts about myself. Take a breath. I'm allowed to have needs and to express them. I am allowed to have needs and express them. I choose to be kind to myself. I choose to be kind to myself. Breathe. I choose the path that's right for me. I choose the path that's right for me. I love who I used to be, who I am now, and who I am becoming. I love who I used to be, who I am now, and who I am becoming. When I look back on past versions of myself, I feel warmth and gratitude. When I look back at past versions of myself, I feel warmth and gratitude. Taking time for self-care is not the same as being selfish. Taking time for self-care is not the same as being selfish. Sometimes I feel emotionally turbulent. That's okay. I allow myself to feel all feelings. Sometimes I feel emotionally turbulent, and that's okay. I allow myself to feel all feelings. I allow myself to feel all feelings. I allow myself to feel all feelings. Take a breath. Feel all of that. Take it in. As we continue, I will say the affirmation. You can repeat it with me the second time. My own approval is worth more than the approval of others. My own approval is worth more than the approval of others. When I look at my life, it's incredible how much I've grown. When I look at my life, it's incredible how much I've grown. I walk through the world feeling loved by myself and others. I walk through the world feeling loved by myself and others. If I want to change, that's okay. But I don't have to change in order to love myself. If I want to change, that's okay. But I don't have to change in order to love myself. I'm allowed to set boundaries and expect others to follow them. I'm allowed to set boundaries and to expect others to follow them. My voice deserves to be heard, and my feelings deserve to be shared. My voice deserves to be heard, and my feelings deserve to be shared. I am worthy of forgiveness, and I choose to forgive myself. I am worthy of forgiveness, and I choose to forgive myself. I choose to associate with people who make me feel better. I choose to associate with people who make me feel better. Although I've made mistakes, They don't define me. Although I've made mistakes, they don't define me. I have something of value to give to the world just by being me. I have something of value to give to the world just by being me. Take all of this in with a deep breath. It is the truth of who you are and how you can navigate in the world. Self-love is the basis for understanding that spirit is the source of your life, and life is a process that you are living. Love yourself through it. And take a final deep breath and bring yourself present to this moment, this time, this space. And bring all of those feelings of self-love with you right now, and hold them in your heart and your mind throughout the day today. Whatever you need is already within you. And you get to experience it. You get to live it. You get to practice self-love. And it is this self-love that then brings you into the capability to meet others and to gift the love that you know to them, to the world, and to life itself. So I'm going to close today's episode with one of my favorite poems, The Invitation by Oriah Mountain Dreamer. Because this is the invitation that we can give ourselves and everyone else on Valentine's Day and every day to truly live from love. The invitation. It doesn't interest me what you do for a living. I want to know what you ache for, and if you dare to dream of meeting your heart's longing. It doesn't interest me how old you are. I want to know if you will risk looking like a fool for love, for your dream, for the adventure of being alive. It doesn't interest me what planets are squaring your moon. I want to know if you have touched the center of your own sorrow, if you have been opened by life's betrayals or have become shriveled and closed from fear of further pain. I want to know if you can sit with pain, mine or your own, without moving to hide it or fade it or fix it. I want to know if you can be with joy, mine or your own, if you can dance with wildness and let the ecstasy flow, fill you to the tips of your fingers and toes, without cautioning us to be careful, to be realistic, to remember the limitations of being human. It doesn't interest me if the story you are telling me is true. I want to know if you can disappoint another to be true to yourself. If you can if you can bear the accusation of betrayal and not betray your own soul. If you can be faithless and therefore trustworthy. I want to know if you can see beauty even when it's not pretty every day. And if you can source your own life from its presence. I want to know if you can live with failure, yours and mine, and still stand on the edge of the lake and shout to the silver of the full moon, yes. It doesn't interest me to know where you live or how much money you have. I want to know if you can get up after the night of grief and despair, weary and bruised to the bone, and do what needs to be done for the children. It doesn't interest me who you know or how you came to be here. I want to know if you will stand in the center of the fire with me and not shrink back. It doesn't interest me where or what or with whom you have studied. I want to know what sustains you from the inside when all else fades away. I want to know if you can be alone with yourself and if you truly like the company you keep in the empty moments. The Invitation by Araya Mountain Dreamer. And that's our show for today. It's Valentine's Day. Have fun. Be in love and be an example of love with everyone you come into contact with, everywhere you go. And if you can do that today, then maybe there is some hope that you can do that every day of the year. My name is Tracy Brown. This has been Poetry, Prayer, and Practice, and I hope to see you every Tuesday at noon right here on the New Thought Media Network.
Thanks for watching. Join us again next week, or watch on demand at www.ntmedia.org or youtube.com/newthoughtmedianetwork. New Thought Media Network, positively inspiring. Learn more at www.ntmedia.org.